Hey everyone, welcome back to Apollo Art Analysis. This episode, you'll be checking out a piece by the established digital illustrator known as Agastya Chaturvedi. This episode, we're going to be talking about diversity of color, we're going to talk about the roots of pointillism, and we're also going to talk about the idea of toasting the legends of our past. So let's jump right into it. So whenever you first see this work, really met with this lone subject in this side profile, quite a unique perspective here. The viewer is likely struck by the sheer amount of dots within the spatial composition. There's a lot of energy coming off of that, right? And so in the realm of color, we have quite a mix, right? You have everything from kind of reds to blues to pinks, yellows, so many different colors here, and this is all really upon this green base as that backing, right? So the impact of this, of course, incredibly diverse. It also mixes with a bit of vibrant light to really energize the spatial composition. So this is all working hand in hand, right? So you see, of course, the placement of our subject in the composition makes him impossible to miss, right? We also see this kind of form accented through contrasting colors. Of course, if you look at green, you compare green to red, those are kind of working against each other. That does imply depth as a result of that. So I think that's incredibly important here. And so what we see, of course, if you look at the realm of texture, is this really unique texture that results from having so many different dots here, right? Such a sheer abundance invigorates the spatial composition, but it does give a bit of a rough sense of texture, but all in all, it's not too much. If you look at the background, it is a lot more rough. It appears to be trying to convey trees or lush plants or something of that kind, right? But we compare the texture of this compared to the glass. The glass is a lot more smooth, so I think that's important to note as well. So when we look at this, of course, you have that incredible visual energy, whether it's from the intensity of light, whether it's the amount of dots within the spatial composition, or even the texture as well. Those are all conveying that sense of visual energy in the visual experience. So and it's quite interesting. What we see here are the echoes of pointillism really established by Seurat. So we're going to take a quick look at a pointillist piece and see what we can learn here real quick. All right, so I got another piece here. What we're looking at on the left is going to be the work from Seurat, who really started the pointillist movement alongside Signat as well. So this is incredibly important. What you'll see here is actually the composition is made up of kind of countless dots, right? It's incredibly detailed, but there is a sense of kind of artificiality to the work at hand there. So when we look at that, we compare that to this work here, we surely see the influence, kind of the echoes from that 1880s style of pointillism. It's incredibly important, right? You have all of this visual energy, but it really roots back in Impressionism, right? This idea that you don't have to show exactly what's in front of you. It's, with Impressionism, you have the idea of optical veracity or staying true to what's directly in front of you. But when we look at things like this, it kind of goes out the wayside. You are showing contemporary life. There is a sense of realism within that. But what's incredibly important is, it's about how the artist expresses the brush onto the painting there. So incredibly important. Of course, you have an incredible amount of visual energy to all of those dots. And we certainly see that within the work here as well. So if you see a work like this made up of so many different dots, it's always important to go back to the origins in kind of the 1880s when we're looking at pointillism. So really hope y'all enjoyed that clip real quick. All right, and so the choice to display our subject as a side profile is quite interesting, right? It almost reminds of a classic portrait in some ways. It's incredibly intimate. Of course, it focuses our attention on the subject there. That's incredibly important. It's quite intimate, brings us directly into the work as well. When I was talking to the artist, the artist found a lot of inspiration from Greek history. The Greeks would come together to toast the ancients, in kind of the tribute that we see there, and then kind of fade away to become ancients worthy of tribute themselves. I think that's incredibly interesting here. What I see, however, of course, you look at something like this, just a simple toast has quite a lot of history, right? That roots back in the libation, which even goes back to ancient Sumer. So there's so many different things you could pull there. A libation essentially is pouring some type of liquid in memory of a spirit or a person, so many different things that it's really used for. But when we pay tribute, of course, whether it's something or some person, of course, back in times when people did that type of sacrifice, you are sacrificing something to the gods. You are sacrificing something for something in return, whether it's a tribute for good graces or anything of that sort. I think that's incredibly important. What's interesting, libation were used, oil or wines, pouring it on the grave, for example. What we see here is an incredible tribute, of course, to the legends of our past, right? That's really the cycle of transformation throughout history. A civilization builds up, they rise, they rise, they rise. They create culture and art. Art really predates that culture type of thing. And what's incredibly important is they eventually, kind of recede and fade away. But what is left is the memory of that art and culture. So, it's kind of that timeless cycle of civilization, of the collapse and the renewing, right? You have kind of a phoenix within that as well. I think that's incredibly interesting. Even today, we see in some different ways, we can go back into the history, we can revive a bit of that culture and learn quite a bit from it. So I think that's incredibly interesting here. And so the original artist, Agastya Chaturvedi, Actually brought another one of his works here. We're going to take a quick look at that, see what we can learn a bit in comparison real quick. All right, so the main reason I brought this work in here is because of this symbol in the top left, right? I was looking all throughout the artist profile, and the only really other instance that I found of this symbol is going to be here as well. I think that's really interesting. There's this symbol of kind of infinity, right? You have 8 circles all interlaid within that. I absolutely love that the artist invokes that in 2 different pieces. Both of these seem almost opposite in some ways, but that kind of infinite symbol is incredibly striking. And if you ever see that, it may be a very good chance that it is Agastya Chaturvedi, so always be on the lookout for that. So we talked a bit about that cycle of transformation, right? And with that in mind, what do y'all see when you view this piece? How do you think all the elements play in, and how do those kind of contribute to the work we're seeing here? All incredibly important questions when we're looking at this work. And so this is a digital illustration, so it was kind of painted on a screen in some way or another. Really one of the most popular mediums, perhaps the most popular medium in digital art today. Everyone from fan artists all the way up to the professional artists are creating in digital illustration. Truly hope y'all enjoyed today. We talked about tributes, we talked a little bit about Greek history, the cycle of transformation, paying tribute, side profiles, the roots of pointillism, so many different things we went into today. I truly hope y'all enjoyed. If y'all did, go check out the original artist, Agastya Chaturvedi, always doing some really good stuff in the medium of digital illustration. Actually works with a lot more mediums than that, I should correct myself. Really a multidisciplinary artist at this point, so I really hope y'all enjoyed. My name is Apollo, this was Apollo Art Analysis, and I'll see y'all on the next episode. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you'd like to support our work directly, please check out our Apollo community tokens. Apollo Art Exchange is an ecosystem of art appreciation which elevates artists each and every day. Thanks for listening.